Good night to you, Marcia, and good night to the loyal opposition. I want to read a verse here from for the loyal opposition and all those in hearing of my voice. Deuteronomy 28. I want to read verses 12 and 13. It says, "The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the works of your hands. You will lend to nations, but will not borrow from them. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail, if you pay
Mhm.
attention to the commands of the Lord your God that I give you this day, and carefully follow them. You will always be at the top and never at the bottom." I really want to encourage us as a people to be conscious of the writings of the good book, the Bible, especially when it comes to that chapter, Deuteronomy 28. Take some time to sit down and relax and read it. You will never be the head. You will always be the head and never be the tail. Where are we as a people, Marcia? Where are we as a people? Where are we as a people in the spectrum? Where are we, when we look at the spectrum of economic development? Where are we as a country? Where are we going as a people? Those are my concerns. And when you echoed what we saw, what we heard today coming from the mouth of Miss Check, I mean, it really makes me wonder, are we living in another Barbados when Jehan has been up, down, and across, when Jehan has been calling so many departments and everybody trying to duck, everybody trying to not to step up to the plate because they may get lashes from Miss Piggy, everybody ducking the show, and all the wastewater. Should I say wastewater, Marcia, or should I say jobby water?
Jobby
Which one?
water.
Jobby
Jobby
water.
water.
Yes,
Yeah.
jobby water. You know, down in Bronx Beach, not Bronx Beach, Brighton. You know, and it really puzzles me. How could you come up with laws such as these? Marcia, when I read that article, you know, I smell a rat,
Hmm.
a very, very big rat too. Because when you look at the content and at the end of it, you're given a reference to what happened to Koru Neville. This is some in 1995. That is some 30 years ago. And you're making reference to what occurred there in, what's the name again? In the St. James, St. Peter, whatever, Western. We know of that flood. We know of all the rain. We know what occurred. We know how Koru was on the on his house, floating out to sea. Marcia, I went there. I went to Western St. James and I walked that water course right to the top where the water burst and came down on Koru. You know, and I don't know how in this day and age, I don't know how Miss Check could be making laws now that will be so robust and seek to find people. I want to invite Miss Check to go down on the Griner Highway, go down to Brighton and see all the jobby water floating out to sea. And then come and talk with us. The first individual that need to be carried before the courts of Barbados is the government of Barbados. They're the first individuals that should be placed before the court and charged. We, the people, will charge them or get them out of office. Because how could you be making laws such as this when you is the chief contravener of the same laws that you're looking now to implement? But I smell a rat. Because all this government seems to be looking for now is money, 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 money. Looking to see who they can charge. You know, and we talking about developers. Developers? You can go and place fines on developers coming to this country? Have mercy. Is that an asset to development? Because here you have some development presumably going on in the area of Brighton, that all the environmental laws are being contravened, not only there, but other places. Talk about Gibbs Gully. And you're going to go and seek to establish a development in Gibbs Gully to interact with the natural flow of water through Gibbs Gully. Where are the people from the environmental department? Where are they? Have they all gone silent? Talk to me, Marcia, man. Come on, talk to me.
Yeah.
They've gone silent. Not only that project, what are the projects that we can look at? That we are conscious when you look at what has happened at the bottom of Cleveland, where we know there must be laws established for development in the Scotland district. You must get some certification from, well, of course, you must get certification from soil conservation for development in the Scotland district area. But you can go and seek to draw plans to place development on a spring at the bottom of Cleveland.
But even look at this. Look at this. Where this look like sewage. Well, on the sewage
Yes,
here. I mean,
yes.
this is why somebody. I want to read some of these comments, because if they think that the wool
But go back, Dave. Go back to the video there and just stop the video there. Stop the video on the drain. Stop it on the drain. Just pull the video in. Put it in. Take it round to the back. To the back of the well. You're talking about wastewater. Right. Hold it right there. Stop it right there. We can see that in actual fact, that didn't happen yesterday. Or we can see that the actual trail of the movement of the water is from the well to the sea.
Yes,
And it has
go a little bit further, Dave. A little
yeah,
bit further.
and it has called
Yes,
right.
perfect.
But you can see that this didn't start yesterday. And this is one of the iconic points in St. Joseph, in Bathsheba, to be more specific. And we know very well, that when I took issue with what I saw there, that on that particular day in question, on that particular time in question, of course, it wasn't only my concern, but it was concerns of other people in the area who are frightened to talk because of fear of Miss Piggy and Miss Piggy Associates. They can't afford to open their mouth. Mr. Lewis, I know this has been going on for a long time, but I'm frightened to say anything. I can't say, come, let me tell you what's been going on. And we know very well that when we look at that this is what is happening right there in Bathsheba and going on for months. But it's only that when the well on that particular day in question, all the jobby water started to flow and talk about stink. And I said to the gentleman who came with the truck, he said, of course, Mr. Lewis, there's one thing that it is disappointing that I have to do it. But you send a truck, during lunch time of all times. The restaurant, they're going, full bloom. Everybody's sitting down in the lounge area and having their lunch. And you can come there to pump a well. That's our iconic rock. One of them. The other was in Cattle Wash. How dare you? How dare you do something like that?
But Miss, I'm saying that Barbadians are, because when I saw it, I said, how could they even form their mouths to come with this? And this is why I say to Barbados, Mr. Lewis, is that we could talk all we want to talk outside of here, outside of Parliament. That it's good what we're doing is very good, but you need bodies inside there, because Mr. Thorne, while he he really debated this in Parliament. I have not heard it yet. I'm hoping that we'll be able to play some of it on the show at some point. But I listen to people on Facebook as well, And what they're saying is, somebody said, I look forward to the government placing these fines on themselves, because they're saying $50,000 or you go to or imprisonment, right? It's just like the tint law, the tint. So now they come with these fines. Everything is money, because she told them and she told us that she wants money. Miss Piggy wants money. So here is Minister Check comes into play now, and here this is what they're doing. They've teamed up to get to rape, as somebody said, to rape the people of Barbados.
Oh yes.
That's what they've done. This is raping the people financially. We've never been taxed like this before. Never in the history of Barbados. We've never borrowed so much before. The children, our children and grandchildren, they will pay and pay and pay. And now in this time, they come up with a fine for every single thing, except to fine themselves, right? Somebody wrote, start enforcing the existing laws. That's what we're asking you. Where are the people from the environmental agency? Why should somebody be calling the environmental agencies for months and they have not responded to the jobby water going into Brighton Beach? Why didn't they respond to that? Right? Somebody else wrote, these fines, those fines should be directed at the government, right? The infrastructure needs an upgrade. They said government will be paying the biggest fines. The people know. The people know if they could go up, so the people could see the heading of the
I want to read this. I want to read this piece here from from Nation News. It said she noted the drainage unit was experiencing blockages in places where landowners had obstructed the natural flow of water by encroaching with structures of such as walls, which impeded access by the drainage unit when work had to be done in the area. The legislation will address this, Bradshaw warned. People who dispose of wastewater and other waste in gutters and waterways and the sea, you know, because that's what's happening at Brighton, have also been put on notice. So you mean there's some individuals that, according to this document in the nations, that would have contravened those laws and they have been put on notice? I want that they make it public. Those individuals who would have contravened those laws, building of walls, etc., and blocking the natural water course, because it has happened based upon that document. They have been placed on notice. Tell us about them. Who are they? Make it public. It will be embarrassing, but of course, if they've been put on notice, they have not been charged, they have been put on notice. You know, do some corrections, go make some alterations, but let us know what is going on. But I want to send them down to Brighton. I want to send them down to Jehan. I want to send them out to sea off Brighton to let them see all the jobby water floating out. Because that is what is happening. They've designed these laws, and as social media is rightfully saying, the first people that must go or should go before the court is the government of Barbados. They're the chief offenders.
Listen, that's everybody is saying that. Let me read a few more. Somebody said, then stop building all over the island's green spaces. There's so little thought within government. Only knee-jerk reactions that look to pass the buck. Okay. They said, what about the men with the guns? What happened? When are you going to lock up the big boys that bringing in the guns? Where want to the men with the guns? Where are the laws for them? Huh? Our children are dying inside of here. Somebody said it must be like the flooding after the completion of roadworks when there never was flooding before.
Marcia, I want you to be conscious of this one thing, you know, because, I mean, this is Barbados, and we've got to protect our country. As Owen Alpha rightfully said, we're taking a stance. It's not a stance for Victor Lewis. It's a stance for my children and grandchildren and the great grands to come. Just now we can be off the face of this earth and the show must carry on. So we are custodians for them. So we must be conscious of this one thing. I will never forget when the Minister of Education, Joan Edutech, mobilized that project without doing what we call a dry run. You know what the dry run, Marcia? You know what the dry run? What the dry run? Talk to me.
Well, you basically you're carrying out whatever it is as though it's actually yeah yeah
And based upon the analysis of that, that's what they call a pilot project. You put it in the pilot seat. And based upon your analysis of that, you look at the pros and cons. And then you mobilize on the pros and address the cons. But EduTech was done without that. Our Prime Minister, the same Minister of Education, did that. And that's exactly what is going on in this country now, where things are just happening willy-nilly. And that's what you call the essence of a despotistic behavior, despotism at its highest. That is what we are experiencing now, where people are just doing things, are not conscious of the pros and cons, spending money up, down, and across without being conscious of the implications. And now we are found at a point where our taxes, we are being taxed up, down, and across because of the implications of such a despotistic behavior.
Well, I tell you, Mr. Lewis, I think Barbadians, you really need to we need to reach a point where we let them know you're not getting one red cent from us. You will not get another cent. Come with the tint. Come with this. You have raped us financially. Huh? You have financially abused us. See, somebody here wrote, here we go again, another set of jobby from the mouth of a nuisance. I can't wait to hear them on the platforms come election time like a circus full of clowns and puppets. Yeah? And they brought here, any idiot can be a politician. How much more are you going to take from the people? You're going to run and you're going to call election because you know you're losing ground. You know you're losing ground. And I dare say to you, you try to take another cent from the people of Barbados. Try to take another cent from the people of Barbados. You sat on a platform. The Prime Minister of this country, Mr. Lewis, sat on a platform and said that she is about money. And this is why I say all of this legislation, Mr. Lewis, that they are seeking to, that they're getting passed and they're passing because we don't have enough people inside there. And Bajans are going to sit down and say another 30 love. Like who is it going to benefit? Who is going to benefit when it's another 30 love? You're sitting down and you're rejoicing that this is what is going to look what's going to happen down there now. But look at the legislation. Look at all that they're doing to us, raping the people of Barbados. And I say to Barbadians, Mr. Lewis, give me a moment. I want to charge Barbadians. I want to say to Barbadians, make up your mind, not a red cent. Not a red cent. We need to get out there and march again. And we are not accepting these legislations. Not another red cent from you to you, given to you. Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
You see, all of this pretty talk coming after. Just as I said, Marcia, when you do a pilot project, you realize your positives, you realize your negatives, or you look at the spectrum and do an analysis on the spectrum, on all entities on that spectrum, to make an informed decision. When you're coming out now with all these environmental laws or presumed environmental laws, Marcia, this is where now they realize that these developers has stepped upon this 166 square miles and want to seek to do what they feel like. So they're seeking now to bring laws or mobilize the laws or seek to redraft some legislation to come up with some new concept of a law that will be in effect to address the issues now that are currently going on. And we know very well that, as I said before, Marcia, I smell a rat, and a very big rat. Because how could you miss what is going on at Brighton? I mean, Brighton, you know, it in, no disrespect to any of the areas of Barbados, but it in like um let me say Concept Bay or Martins Bay, up my side on the east. This is Brighton, you know. This is next to the West Coast. This is next to Platinum City. It is there. It is in proximity. And you don't know what's going on that course. You don't know what's happening there. Man, Jahan making calls to all kind of departments and everybody ducking. And you come now say you're making laws. And you know how these laws came about, Marcia, just as I said before? You know these laws came about because they realized that they bring these developers, put them on this 160 square miles, say no to any planning application, bring the rubber stamps, stamp all the stamps, but all the environmental, all the social impact study and the environmental impact study, all the studies that ought to be prerequisites to the start of the project are now coming after. That is one of the implications of when you seek to mobilize plans without doing what we call a pilot study. Yes, we embrace development, of course. That's wonderful, but we must respect social impact. We must respect environmental impact and, of course, environmental. But according to Crystal Haynes, wall to wall to wall to wall to wall. Huh? What has that done for us as the social fabric of this country? What has it done for us? Many of us don't frequent the West Coast, and we know why. We don't want to create another West Coast on the south, another West Coast in the east, another West Coast in the north. We don't want that. We want Nelson Street to remain as is. I mean, duty free, nice it up. But all the residents remain there, Beckwith Street and Wellington Street and Nelson Street. All those folks have become a part of that society. They constitute that fabric of that inner city. And there they must remain. We cannot afford to go in there and seek to, what you call gentrification. That's the word, right, Master?
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Gentrification, yeah.
Yes. Yes, man. That's what they want to do to us.
Yeah.
I retired from teaching in 2014. And this was a matter also on the table for discussion, the whole concept of, terms leave. And this was an issue during that period of time for me. I would have gotten my, in terms of pre-retirement leave, that mobilized for me. But I agree 200% with the stance that the president of the BUT and certainly of the BSTU, but I would have heard from the BUT, you would have played the clip earlier in the show, and I support them 200%. You know, they're on the ball. This is not a political issue. This has been going on for a while, and quite a long while. You know, and I give my strong support to the teaching service on this issue because it is not a matter of being politicized, but of course it occurs during this period, and I think it is rather unfortunate, you know, that the incoming minister of education, or I don't know what to call it now because there's so many names now being bandied about. But of course, you know, it is a rather unfortunate statement, and I think that it has serious implications for the level of support that this individual is likely to get, you know, in the long term. It's an unfortunate statement, and I support the teachers 200%.
Yes.
Of
Or
course, but
Mr.
you heard what Mr. Thorne is saying.
Mm,
Whether the legislation is too late, you understand? But
yeah.
that's the whole concept of pilocy, where you look at the pros and cons. So now they realize that the cons are in their face. You're looking now to go and put legislation in place after the fact to address these issues. And did the same thing that Crystal Hayes was talking about, you know, and she got axed because of it. How dare them do something like that? You know, because those are the prerequisites. Those are the studies that ought to have been done that will guide us through this process. But they're now coming after the fact. Unfortunate. You know, checks and balances is a very healthy dimension of our development. And the more checks and balances entities that we have, it is in our best interest for the healthy development of our country. When I saw, however, what appears to have transpired in the area of the constituency where the by-election will hopefully take place, I am of the view that, you know, there's an environment there where there is a lack of cohesiveness. We can see behavior there that seem to suggest that it is quite inert and that there isn't that collaboration, there is no dialogue in that environment to suggest that there is a cohesive view by the Barbados Labour Party. And it suggests to me that that shows some kind of fraction, and that fraction tells me that things are not what they are projected to be.